The White House confirmed that Trump's refusal to escalate military action has frustrated many hawks in Washington and Europe who are openly expecting a large-scale war. Instead, President Trump avoided catastrophe and, at the same time, helped protect Israel from suffering epic damage. Some analysts even describe the potential consequences as biblical in scale, a phrase used by his close friend and journalist Tucker Carlson. Behind the scenes, Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin reportedly found a diplomatic off-ramp, a critical point of de-escalation that successfully diffused the situation just in time. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared to be out of control. Yesterday, he launched missiles at Lebanon, further escalating tensions in the region. However, Trump's strong intervention brought Netanyahu back in line, something many believe should have been done a long time ago. Let's now hear President Trump's official statement from earlier today. It's a relief that the serious situation we were in did not escalate. That's all for today.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers.
Israel says that they violated the peace.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Consequences for Israel or Iran for breaking?
They didn't do anything, no. They didn't do anything. They would have if I put out a statement on truth, and they didn't do anything.
Sir, how are you confident that this might not happen again? Say in a couple weeks that...
Tired of it. I think they don't want it to happen again. And Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon, by the way. I think it's the last thing on their mind right now.
Mr. President, did Iran make any commitments yesterday about uranium enrichment?
About what?
About uranium enrichment.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders, and they're going to be a great trading nation, and they have a lot of oil. They're going to do well. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
So did they promise?
The last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
Can you clarify what you meant when you mentioned regime change in your Truth Social post the other night?
Which?
Regime change? No. Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people. And they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a great job, which is exactly where I've been saying for years. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But we're going to be with, where's Marco? I think Marco's here someplace. You know, our great Secretary of State. but we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. And I will tell you, the last thing on their minds is nuclear weapons. They don't even want to think about nuclear. And our B-2 pilots made this all possible. They had a magnificent hit in the dark of night with no moon, no light, no nothing. They hit the target perfectly, wiped it out. And the press is very disrespectful. I saw CNN fake news going, well, maybe it wasn't a perfect hit, it was perfect. They said maybe it did destroy it. We agree, it did destroy it, but maybe it could have destroyed it more. No, it couldn't have destroyed it more. Everyone hit. And it's very disrespectful to those great geniuses and patriots that flew those planes through tremendous danger. So CNN and MSDNC are a disgrace. And so are the others. I mean, they're pretty much all a disgrace. But it's an amazing period of time. Now we're going to NATO, and we'll get a new set of problems. We'll solve a new set of problems.
Do you think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Say, how you doing? They're tough. He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there.
Sir, you said a couple days ago that you didn't think the U.S. should have to agree to the 5% increase in GDP on defense.
No.
Do you want to
I was the one that said that's what they should be paying, as you know. No, I should do something. And they're having a problem with Spain. There's always a problem with Spain. Because Spain's not agreeing, which is very unfair to the rest of them, frankly.
So the U.S. won't be increasing our GDP to 5%.
We should pay what everyone else. You know, they're in Europe. We're not. You know, a lot of that money goes to rebuilding their bridges, their roads, so it can take heavy equipment. And, you know, we don't have any roads in Europe. We don't have any bridges in Europe. So, no, it wouldn't be quite the same thing for us. But we're with them.
Are you still committed to Article 5 of NATO?
It depends on your definition. There's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right? But I'm committed to being their friends. You know, I've become friends with many of those leaders, and I'm committed to helping them.
What do you want the role of NATO to be going forward once these other countries are spending more?
By having a unified system, I think we're going to have stronger peace, better peace, and I think we have that. You know, when I went to NATO, they were broke. When I first started this whole thing, it seems like a long time ago, 9 years, right? But they were broke. I knew it immediately. I said, you guys are broke. They weren't paying their dues. 7 of the 28 countries, at the time it was 28, were paying their dues, but they weren't paying very much. NATO was broke. And I said, you're going to have to pay. And we did a whole thing, and now they're paying a lot. Then I said, you're going to have to lift it to 4% or 5%. And 5% is better. And they just, I guess they're voting on that today, but they're going to be lifting it to 5%. That's good. It gives them much more power.
Mr. President, if there's language in the final summit declaration about aggression by Russia, would you be okay with that kind of language?
Well, I'll have to take a look at it. But, you know, I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia. It's a shame. 6,000 soldiers died last week. More, 6,500 soldiers died last week. Russia, Ukraine, a war that never would have happened if I was president. So enjoy your flight.
Let me ask you one more follow-up. In your comments just now about Article 5, that will probably make some people in Europe concerned. Can you clarify what you mean? Are you still committed to mutual defense?
I'm committed to saving lives. I'm committed to life and safety. And I'm going to give you an exact definition when I get there. I just don't want to do it on the back of an airplane. Okay?
And one other question on energy. What's your take on the oil price situation right now, and are you concerned?
Great. I love it. It dropped almost $10 yesterday. I put out a statement, get it down, because a lot of people aren't able to do things when the energy goes down. You're going to have a lot less conflict. So it came down, and our energy department's doing a great job. We're drilling like we've never drilled before. We're keeping it down. We're going to keep it down until all these wars are settled. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you.
Iranian sleeper cells in the United States.
Biden led a lot of supercells, and Biden was an incompetent president, had no idea what he was doing. He hardly ever signed a document. Other people signed documents for him with the auto pen. It was gross incompetence. And among everything else, he let a lot of supercells in, many from Iran. but hopefully we'll take care of them. What Biden did to this country should never be forgotten.
Do you think you'll get the Nobel Peace Prize?
It's going well. Did everybody have a good time? Reasonable. How about you? I did. I always have a good time. Hello. Hi, Jennifer.
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
We're looking at better than ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel. Nice guy. But he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
You're looking to get into this more. You're not going to involve the U.S. in this conflict at this stage. You're going to do anything more for Israel right now?
Doing pretty well. Right now, we're doing pretty well. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the full evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe.
Is there any new concern about U.S. troops or assets in the region at all today?
We have great people. They know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what specifically do you
Down
mean?
so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard, then the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
Are you sending the vice?
But our troops are ready.
When you
Do
say
you
better,
plan to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff? There's reports that you want to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff to meet with the Iranians and have discussions. Is that something you're considering?
Not sure yet. I may. Depends on what happens when I get back.
what specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that will be permanent.
Yeah. Or giving up entirely. That's okay too.
Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24, 48 hours?
Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible, yeah.
Has the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense drawn up plans for you if Iran were to attack U.S. bases or do any damage to U.S. bases?
I just can't tell you.
Can I ask you, because there's been some skepticism, is there any guarantee that if the U.S. did get involved militarily, that a U.S. bomb could destroy Iran's nuclear program and facilities?
Everything or anything or life, you know that. Look at you, right? There's no guarantee. But you're saying a guarantee on what?
Do you think if the U.S. got involved militarily, it would actually wipe out Iran's nuclear program? Or where's your assessment of that?
I hope their program's going to be wiped out long before that. But they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
And your interview is, do you have any reason to believe the Israelis are going to slow down, or are they going to hit the accelerator right now because they've got superiority?
Yeah, over the next 2 days, right? You're going to find out.
Has the Gang of Eight,
Nobody's slowed up so far.
has the Gang of Eight been notified about what's coming in the next couple days?
We'll be talking to them.
What can you do?
It's not necessary.
What can you do in Washington that you couldn't do in Canada?
Just be a little bit, I think, more well-versed. Not having to use telephones so much because I don't believe in telephones. Because people like you listen to them, you know. So being on the scene is much better. And we did everything I had to do in the G7. We had a good G7. We signed the deal with the European Union, phase one of a deal. But we signed the deal with the UK. And the UK is really great. We're very far down the line with a lot of deals. I mean, look, we're actually finished with every deal if you really think about it, because all I have to do is say this is what you're going to pay. But it's nice to be nice.
Did Secretary Bessent stay behind as your representative? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, a couple of people.
Can I ask you, where...
Here we go. Who else has a question other than CNN?
Mr. President, you talked with the European Union. Can you tell us what the status is on talks on those you signed with the UK today?
I don't feel that they're offering a fair deal yet. You know, they've been very tough over the years. If you look at European Union, they formed in order to hurt the United States on trade. And we're either going to make a good deal or they'll just pay whatever we say they have to pay.
What about the Japanese? So you met briefly with Prime Minister
We had a great
Shiba?
conversation. I thought he was terrific, actually. You know, I was very friendly with Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister. He is a great man, but I think he's going to do a very good job.
You think you have a chance of a deal there?
יקרים, ב-12 הימים של מבצע עם לביא השגנו ניצחון היסטורי, והניצחון הזה יעמוד לדורות. הסרנו מעלינו שני איומים קיומיים מיידיים, איום ההשמדה בפצצות גרעין ואיום ההשמדה ב-20,000 טילים בליסטיים. אם לא היינו פועלים עכשיו, מדינת ישראל הייתה עומדת בקרוב בפני סכנת השמדה. אבל זה לא קרה, כי ברגע המכריע קמנו כלביא, נעמדנו כארי, והשאגה שלנו הרעידה את טהרן והידדה בכל העולם. במקורותינו נאמר, בתחבולות תעשה לך מלחמה. מכת הפתיחה המפתיעה של עם כלביא תירשם בדברי הימים של מלחמות ישראל, והיא תלמד בכל צבאות העולם. באבחה אחת, מכה אחת, חיסלנו את הפיקוד הבכיר של איראן, כולל 3 רמטכ"לים ובכירים רבים נוספים. ובאותם רגעים חיסלנו גם את מדעני הגרעין המובילים של איראן. הם שהחזיקו בידע, הם שהובילו את תוכנית הגרעין, הם שביקשו להביא עלינו חורבן ומוות. הרסנו את מתקן ההעשרה המרכזי בנתנז, את מתקן המרת האורניום באספהאן ואת מתקן המים הכבדים בעראק. ידידנו הנשיא טראמפ התגייס באופן חסר תקדים לצידנו. בהנחייתו, צבא ארצות הברית השמיד את אתר ההעשרה במעמקי האדמה בפורדו. תקפנו עוד עשרות מתקנים של תוכנית הגרעין האיראנית, כולל מעבדות ומפעלי ייצור של צנטריפוגות. אתם בוודאי זוכרים לפני 7 שנים איך במבצע מזהיר של המוסד הבאנו את ליבת ארכיון הגרעין הסודי של איראן לארץ. חשפנו אז את תוכנית הגרעין של איראן להשמדת מדינת ישראל לפני הנשיא טראמפ, לפני העולם כולו, לפניכם אזרחי ישראל. ובכן כעת במבצע הזה, השלמנו את המלאכה ופגענו בארכיון כולו, והארכיון הזה ריכז בתוכו את כלל הידע של איראן לייצור פצצות אטום. גם את זה עשינו. במשך עשרות שנים הבטחתי לכם שלאיראן לא יהיה נשק גרעיני. ואכן, בכל הפעולות המזהירות שלוחמינו ביצעו, הורדנו לטמיון את פרויקט הגרעין של איראן. ואם מישהו באיראן ינסה לשקם את הפרויקט הזה, נפעל באותה נחישות, באותה עוצמה, לגדוע כל ניסיון כזה. אני שב ואומר, לאיראן לא יהיה נשק גרעיני. באותה עוצמה, באותה נחישות, השמדנו את תעשיית ייצור הטילים של איראן. הרסנו עשרות מפעלים לייצור טילים, פגענו קשות במלאי הטילים. השמדנו את רוב המשגרים, במקרים רבים, השמדנו אותם דקות לפני שהם שיגרו את טילי המוות לישראל. כוונת הזדון של איראן לאיים תוך שנים ספורות על קיומה של ישראל ברבבות טילים בליסטיים. האיום הזה גם הוא הוסר. וביחס למשטר האיראני, הנחתנו מכות מחץ על משטר הרשע. חיסלנו בכירים רבים נוספים, הרסנו מפקדות, תקפנו את בסיסי משמרות המהפכה, תקפנו את בסיסי הבסיס, פגענו בסמלי שלטון. והיום לפנות בוקר, רק לפני כמה שעות אחדות לפני הפסקת האש, הנחתנו על משטר האייתולות את המכה הקשה ביותר מאז תחילת המלחמה, את המכה הקשה ביותר בתולדותיו. חיסלנו מאות מפעילי משטר, בהתקפה המוחצת ביותר שראתה טהרן ב50 השנים האחרונות. אזרחי ישראל, אני מודה בשמכם לידידי הנשיא טראמפ ולארצות הברית על חלקם בהגנת ישראל ובהסרת איום הגרעין של איראן. ההצטרפות של ארצות הברית למערכה, לא רק בצד ההגנתי, אלא גם בצד ההתקפי, זהו אירוע היסטורי. זה לא קרה מעולם. זהו פרי מאמץ מדיני שהובלתי יחד עם השר דרמר אל מול הנשיא טראמפ וצוותו. ואני חייב לומר לכם, מעולם לא היה לישראל ידיד גדול כמו הנשיא טראמפ בבית הלבן, ואני מודה לו מאוד על עבודתנו המשותפת. יש לכך השלכות אדירות על הביטחון הלאומי של ישראל, על הביטחון של כל אחד ואחד מכם ושל הילדים שלכם והנכדים שלכם, ועל פני המזרח התיכון כולו.
That's all for today. Charlotte, back to you in the studio.